Is the Motorola Moto G9 Power worth buying in 2021? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. What's up guys, KalipezTech here, coming back at you with another video. Today, we're gonna be taking a look at the Motorola Moto G9 Power and see if it's actually worth buying in 2021. Let's get started. So this phone has a 6.8-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 263, an aspect ratio of 20.5 by 9, and a screen to body ratio of 83.1%. We got a hole punch right up here for the front facing camera, and this camera is 16 megapixels. Right now I have the brightness at 100%, and despite only being a 720p display, I do think it looks pretty good. I really like the size of this display too. 6.8 inches is on the bigger side for sure. It's gonna make stuff like streaming videos, reading, viewing pictures, pretty much everything you would do on your phone, just a better experience overall. But at the same time, it has a really sleek design, so it's still comfortable to hold in your hand and carry in your pocket. It's not so big and bulky that it gets annoying. For storage, we're getting 128 gigabytes of internal storage with micro SD card expansion, so that's pretty good. The average user is probably not going to even come close to running out of space on this. And with apps in the system and everything getting larger and larger these days, it's better to have more storage than you need than not enough, because if you don't have enough and you run out of space, you can't really do anything about it. Whereas having more storage than you need has never been a problem. And if you're more of a power user, if you have a ton of things like games on your phone, or if you shoot a lot of videos and stuff like that, this is gonna be good for you too, because not only are you gonna be able to hold a ton of apps on this phone with 128 gigabytes, but the micro SD card expansion makes it easier to store your photos and videos. So the back of the phone is made out of a hard plastic material, and it really doesn't pick up fingerprints at all, which I think is really nice. That's a big drawback of the phones with super glossy finishes. Even the higher end phones, they pick up so many fingerprints that you have to wipe it off every 5 seconds, and it just gets annoying. We got a fingerprint scanner right here. It's a real easy to reach spot. Let's go ahead and give it a try. All right, that was real fast. One more time. There we go. As you can see, the fingerprint scanner is really fast and responsive. No problems there. And I like that you don't have to deal with putting in a pin. It makes things a lot faster and more convenient. And if you don't like using a fingerprint scanner for whatever reason, there's also face unlock on this phone, so you'll have another option besides a pin either way. Also on the back of this phone, we have our triple camera setup with a 64 megapixel rear camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. This is a pretty good setup here. And then for video, this phone can shoot in qualities up to 1080p in both the rear and the front cameras. This is a picture taken with the rear camera of the phone, so as expected with the 64 megapixel camera, it came out real good. The colors look really nice and the details are really sharp. So if taking photos is something that you really value, this phone is definitely going to be a solid option because you can get some really good shots with this. This is a picture taken with the macro camera of the phone. Now, I'm not personally a big macro camera user myself, but if you do like macro cameras, this phone's macro camera is pretty decent. Now, the one thing camera-wise that this phone doesn't have that I wish it did is an ultra-wide camera. Now, I honestly think this phone should just have an ultra-wide camera instead of a macro camera because I think an ultra-wide camera is a lot more useful. A macro camera really only has one purpose, but an ultra-wide camera has so many different uses. You can use it to take a picture of a large object, a group photo, a room, some big scenery, so many different things. But with a macro camera, you can't really do a whole lot of different things. So if you really are into photography, I feel like an ultra wide camera would be more useful. Even if you're not really trying to do anything super special, there are a lot more real life situations where you would be using an ultra wide camera versus a macro camera. So I honestly think this phone should have an ultra wide camera, and that's the biggest drawback of this phone's camera setup. I mean, this is a pretty mid-level phone, definitely above a lot of the lower end phones. And I've seen some super entry-level phones that are a lot less expensive than this one with ultra-wide cameras. So it is a disappointment. So just keep that in mind if that is a feature that you're looking for. Now internally, this phone's getting 4 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 662 processor. I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 311 and a multi-core score of 1411. So not the most powerful processor out there, but definitely getting into the mid-level. This is not going to be a slow phone at all. In my experience, I've had no issues with the performance so far. If you're going to be using your phone for stuff like web browsing, social media, sending text messages, making calls, even light gaming and video editing, you're going to be completely fine, and this phone's going to give you a really good experience. This phone does run on Android 10, and I'm not sure when or if it's actually going to get an update. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because Android 10 is a really good software, but if you do prefer to get the latest updates as they come out, then you might want to look at a different device because as of right now, this phone is running on Android 10. On the other hand, this phone does have a really nice feature that I personally like to use a lot, and that is NFC. NFC is the technology behind contactless payment services like Google Pay. It's a feature that when it first came out was really only used in flagship phones, but now it's starting to trickle down to these mid-level phones, and even some of the entry-level phones have it, so I'm glad that this phone does. Probably my favorite feature about this phone is the battery. This phone has probably the biggest battery I've ever seen in a smartphone. With a 6,000 milliamp hour battery that supports 20 watt fast charging, you're not gonna have to worry about battery life. Now, I can actually tell you from experience, this phone has crazy battery life. I'm not sure how long I've had this phone on just sitting around without being charged, but it's been multiple days. And right now we are at 70% battery life. In comparison, the iPhone 12 has a 2,815 milliamp hour battery. So this phone actually has over double the battery size of the iPhone 12. So just imagine that. You're not gonna have any problems with battery life. Not only is this battery gonna get crazy life per charge, but you're also gonna get longevity down the road. All batteries do degrade over time, and when other phones with smaller batteries are getting to the point where their batteries are basically dead and you have to get a new phone, this phone's probably gonna still have a lot of life left in it. So if you prefer to get a phone and keep it for as long as you possibly can without having to replace it, this is gonna be a huge benefit for you. And not to mention the fast charging. Again, this phone does support 20 watt fast charging, so if you have a more powerful fast charger, this is gonna help you charge the phone even faster, of course. So if you're out and about a lot and don't always have time to sit there and have your phone charging for a long period of time, then this phone's compatibility with a fast charger is gonna help you out a lot. Now, in conclusion, is the Motorola Moto G9 Power worth buying in 2021? I would say this phone is absolutely worth buying in 2021. I really can't say a whole lot of bad things about this phone. For starters, even though the display is only 720p, it honestly doesn't even look like it. The display looks really nice, plus it's really big. With a 6.8-inch display, it's definitely on the larger side, especially compared to other phones in its price range. And then of course the storage is just as big with 128 gigabytes of internal storage. If you're an average user or even a power user, you're probably not gonna have to worry about running out of space. There are some nice security features with a fingerprint scanner that's super fast and face unlock, plus a really nice camera setup. The only thing I really don't like about it is that it doesn't have an ultra-wide camera, but if you don't use an ultra-wide camera, then that's really not even relevant. The processor, I'm not super impressed by. I've definitely seen better, but again, this isn't exactly a high-end phone, so I wasn't really expecting a whole lot to begin with. With 4 gigabytes of RAM and a decent amount of processing power, this phone's gonna be able to handle your basic activities and then some perfectly fine. The phone has NFC, which is nice, and then of course, the battery being pretty much the best feature on this phone. Definitely if you're in a situation where you have to be more mobile, but also want to use your phone throughout the day, this phone's probably going to be one of your best options because this battery life is going to be able to help you get through the day without even having to charge your phone. Again, one of the other drawbacks of this phone is that it runs on Android 10, and as of right now, you're not going to be able to update it to Android 11. I'm not sure if that's going to change in the future. So if you are one of those people who wants the latest updates of Android as they come out, you might be disappointed with this phone, but still Android 10 is a great software, so if you don't mind, then that's not really going to be a problem. Overall, this phone is among my favorite mid-level phones I've worked with, and I definitely think it provides a lot of good value in 2021. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.